For most of my life, I was the dependable daughter. If my parents needed help paying bills, I helped. If my younger sister Lily wanted money for college books, I sent it. When my father lost his job for 6 months, I covered part of the mortgage without asking for anything in return. I never complained. Family was family. At 34, I had finally built a comfortable life for myself. I worked long hours as a financial analyst, lived modestly, and carefully saved every extra dollar. While my friends spent money on luxury vacations and expensive cars, I focused on building security for my future. I thought my family was proud of me. I was wrong. The trouble started the day Lily announced her engagement. The entire family gathered at my parents' house for dinner. Lily walked into the dining room flashing a huge diamond ring while everyone cheered and hugged her. "I'm getting married," she shouted. I smiled and congratulated her. Despite our differences, I genuinely wanted her to be happy. For the next hour, the conversation revolved entirely around wedding plans. Lily described designer dresses, luxury venues, flower arrangements, and a guest list of nearly 300 people. I listened quietly. Then my mother cleared her throat. "Emma," she said with a smile that instantly made me nervous, "since you're doing so well financially, we were hoping you'd help make Lily's dream wedding come true." I blinked. "What exactly do you mean by help?" Lily exchanged a glance with our parents. My father slid a folder across the table. Inside was a detailed wedding budget, $90,000. I nearly dropped the papers. $90,000. I asked. "It's an investment in family," my mother replied. I laughed nervously, assuming they were joking. Nobody laughed back. The room became painfully quiet. "You're serious." "Of course we're serious," Lily said. "You can afford it." My stomach tightened. I absolutely could not afford to hand over $90,000. Yes, I had savings, but those savings represented years of sacrifice. They were meant for a house, retirement, emergencies, and the future I had worked tirelessly to build. "I love you, Lily," I said carefully, "but I can't pay for your wedding." Her smile disappeared instantly. "What? I can't spend $90,000 on a wedding?" My mother's expression hardened. "After everything we've done for you." I stared at her. Everything they'd done for me. I had worked for every scholarship, every promotion, every dollar in my bank account. "This isn't about love," I said calmly. "It's about money I don't have available." My father slammed his hand on the table. "You do have it." "No, I have savings." "Same thing." "No, it isn't." Lily suddenly stood up. "I can't believe you're being this selfish." The accusation hit me like a slap. Selfish for refusing to finance a luxury wedding. I looked around the room and realized something chilling. Not one person was asking. They were demanding. In their minds, the money already belonged to them. The dinner ended with Lily crying, my parents calling me ungrateful, and several relatives sending angry text messages before I even reached home. As I sat alone in my apartment that night, my phone continued buzzing with accusations. Selfish, greedy, disappointing, heartless. I turned the phone off and stared into the darkness. For the first time in my life, I began wondering whether my family loved me at all, or if they only loved what my bank account could do for them. I had no idea that refusing to fund a wedding was about to trigger the biggest betrayal of my life. 3 months passed after the disastrous family dinner. The silence from my family was almost complete. My parents rarely called. Lily blocked me on social media. Relatives who once invited me to every family gathering suddenly acted as if I didn't exist. As painful as it was, I slowly adjusted. I focused on work, spent time with friends, and tried to convince myself that the distance was temporary. Eventually, I believed, emotions would cool down and my family would realize that refusing to pay for a $1.90 zero wedding didn't make me a villain. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning changed everything. I was sorting through my mail before leaving for work when I noticed an envelope from a bank I had never used. Curious, I opened it. My heart stopped. Final notice. The bold letters seemed to jump off the page. According to the statement, I was 60 days behind on payments for a personal loan, totaling $90,000. $90,000, the exact amount Lily had demanded for her wedding. At first, I assumed there had been some mistake. I immediately called the bank. After navigating several automated menus, I finally reached a representative. There must be an error. I explained. I never applied for any loan. The representative asked several security questions before pulling up the account. The more she spoke, the colder I felt. The loan had been approved nearly 2 months earlier. It was issued under my full legal name. My social security number was attached. My home address was listed correctly, and somehow the application included a signed agreement. A signature that looked disturbingly similar to mine. I didn't sign anything. I said. There was a long pause. "Ma'am," the representative replied carefully, "if you believe this account was opened fraudulently, you should file a fraud claim immediately." The moment I hung up, panic set in. Someone had stolen my identity, someone with access to highly personal information. I contacted the bank's fraud department and requested copies of every document connected to the loan. The next few days felt endless. I barely slept. Every possible scenario ran through my mind. A hacker, a scammer, an identity thief. Anything made more sense than what I would eventually discover. When the documents finally arrived, I spread them across my dining room table. The loan application contained details that weren't publicly available, information only a handful of people knew. My birth date, past addresses, answers to security questions, even the name of my childhood pet. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. Those details weren't known by strangers, they were known by family. I tried pushing the thought away. No parent would do something like this. No sister would. Yet the deeper I looked, the worse things became. The loan funds hadn't been deposited into my bank account. Instead, they had been transferred directly to multiple businesses. Wedding planners, catering companies, florists, event decorators. My hands started shaking. Every payment was connected to a wedding. One wedding, Lily's wedding. I stared at the documents for nearly an hour, hoping I was somehow misunderstanding them. But the truth remained. Someone had taken out a $90,000 loan in my name, and every dollar appeared to be funding the extravagant wedding I had refused to pay for. For the first time, a terrifying possibility entered my mind. What if my family hadn't accepted my refusal? What if they had simply decided to take the money anyway? The thought seemed impossible, but as I looked at the evidence spread across my table, I realized something even more frightening. The impossible was beginning to look exactly like the truth. For 2 days, I sat in my apartment staring at the loan documents. Part of me wanted to believe there was another explanation. Maybe someone had stolen my identity and happened to use the money for wedding-related expenses. Maybe the similarities were just a coincidence. But deep down, I knew better. The evidence pointed in only one direction. My family, on Friday morning, I hired an attorney named Rebecca Lawson, a woman with years of experience handling financial fraud cases. After reviewing the documents, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "Emma, this wasn't done by a random scammer." My stomach tightened. "You think it was someone I know. I think it was someone with intimate access to your personal information." The words hit harder than I expected. Rebecca immediately filed fraud reports and requested a formal investigation. She also advised me not to confront anyone until we gathered enough evidence. That proved difficult. Every time I looked at my phone, I wanted to call my parents and demand answers. Instead, I waited. Over the next several weeks, investigators began tracing the loan application. The results were shocking. The application hadn't been submitted online from my apartment or workplace. It had been completed from a computer located less than 10 miles from my parents' home. Security footage from the bank branch, where supporting documents were delivered, revealed a woman wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. The image wasn't clear enough for immediate identification, but investigators weren't finished. The loan approval process had generated dozens of electronic records. Email confirmations, phone logs, digital signatures, IP addresses. Each new piece of evidence strengthened the fraud case. Then came the breakthrough. A fraud investigator called Rebecca one afternoon. Less than an hour later, she called me. "Emma, I think we found something important." I rushed to her office. She placed several documents on her desk. One was a vendor contract from Lily's wedding planner. The signature looked familiar, too familiar. My heart sank. Beside it sat the forged loan application. The handwriting patterns were nearly identical. The loops, the slant, the pressure marks, everything matched. I felt physically sick. Rebecca spoke gently. "The handwriting expert believes the same person signed both documents." I stared at the papers. Lily. My own sister. The room felt smaller. For years I had defended her, helped her, supported her, and now her handwriting appeared on documents connected to a crime committed against me. But the worst revelation came days later. Investigators obtained text messages from a phone linked to the loan application. One message read, "She said no, but it's basically our money anyway." Another said, "Once the wedding is over, she'll get over it." And finally, "Don't tell Emma anything until after the ceremony." I couldn't breathe. There it was, the truth, not a misunderstanding, not an accident, a deliberate plan. Someone in my family had decided that my refusal didn't matter. They believed they were entitled to my money simply because they wanted it. As the investigation continued, more relatives learned what had happened. The reaction was immediate. Family members who had spent months calling me selfish suddenly stopped returning my parents' calls. Questions spread quickly. Rumors followed. The perfect image my family had carefully maintained was beginning to crack. Meanwhile, Lily's wedding day was only 3 weeks away. The venue was booked. The invitations were sent. The guests were ready, but hidden behind the expensive flowers and elegant decorations was a secret that could destroy everything. And for the first time since receiving that terrifying bank notice, I wasn't afraid anymore, because now I had something stronger than their lies. I had proof, and very soon everyone was going to see it. 3 weeks later, Lily's wedding day finally arrived. The entire family had spent months preparing for what they called the event of the year. The luxury venue sparkled with crystal chandeliers. Hundreds of guests filled the ballroom. Expensive flower arrangements decorated every table. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But beneath the beautiful decorations, panic was growing. The investigation had reached its conclusion, and the truth was about to come out. 2 days before the wedding, my attorney filed the final fraud reports with the authorities and submitted the evidence package to the bank. The case included forged signatures, digital records, witness statements, security footage, and text messages. The evidence was overwhelming. There was no way to explain it away. On the morning of the wedding, several vendors received notices informing them that payments connected to the fraudulent loan were being disputed as part of an active fraud investigation. Chaos erupted immediately. The wedding planner began making frantic phone calls. The venue manager demanded clarification. Several vendors threatened legal action. By noon, rumors were spreading throughout the guest list. Nobody knew the full story yet, but everyone knew something was wrong. I arrived at the venue shortly before the ceremony. For a moment, I considered turning around, but then I remembered every accusation, every insult, every sleepless night caused by a debt I never agreed to. I walked inside. Conversations stopped as people noticed me. My parents looked stunned. Lily's face turned pale. Neither expected me to show up. My attorney arrived minutes later, carrying a folder filled with documents. What happened next changed everything. Several close relatives gathered as Rebecca calmly explained the investigation's findings. She presented copies of the forged loan application, handwriting analysis, bank records, and text messages. The room fell silent. One by one, people examined the evidence. No one defended my family. No one questioned the facts. The proof spoke for itself. My mother's hands trembled. My father couldn't look anyone in the eye. Lily burst into tears. But this time, nobody rushed to comfort her. For months, they had painted me as the selfish villain who refused to help family. Now everyone understood the truth. I wasn't the one who betrayed my family. My family had betrayed me. Within hours, the wedding collapsed. Some vendors walked away. Several guests left early. What was supposed to be the happiest day of Lily's life became the day her deception was exposed. Yet the greatest surprise came afterward. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. Mostly, I felt free. The bank officially cleared my name and removed all responsibility for the fraudulent loan. Legal proceedings continued against those responsible while I focused on rebuilding my life. Over the following months, relatives who had once criticized me began apologizing. Some admitted they had believed the lies without hearing my side. Others simply said they were sorry. I accepted some apologies. Others I politely declined. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. A year later, I used my savings for something I had dreamed about for years. I bought a beautiful home overlooking a quiet lake. Standing on the back porch one evening, I watched the sunset reflect across the water and thought about everything that had happened. My family had tried to steal my future. Instead, they lost their place in it. That was the sweetest revenge of all. Not watching their lives fall apart, but watching mine finally come together. And for the first time in a very long time, I was exactly where I belonged.